My partner requested a month of independence prior to our wedding. I agreed and even purchased her a ticket to Miami. However, merely 2 hours after I bid her farewell, my phone rang from the airport with news that altered everything I believed about her. We were seated on the back porch when she admitted it. It was late September, and the air remained warm. A candle flickered on the small iron table between us. Sarah had a knack for broaching serious subjects. She'd swirl her wine, gaze into the yard, then casually introduce the topic as if you might miss it. "Johnny," she began, "I've been pondering. I need 30 days alone before the wedding." I didn't respond immediately. At 58 years old, with 3 decades of owning restaurants under my belt, I'd learned that reacting rashly within the first few seconds to something unusual was unwise. So I simply looked at her and she continued talking. She claimed I was too flawless. She confessed her fear that she didn't merit me. 30 days, Miami, my condo. She desired solitude there to determine if life without me was feasible. If not, she'd return and remarry me unhesitantly. The speech she prepared lingered in my mind, not her words, but the rehearsal behind them. I conceded, agreed to manage her flight arrangements. 3 decades in business granted me wisdom. When someone recites a well-rehearsed story, one does not debate it. Instead, a ticket is purchased and the journey observed. She departed with a kiss on my forehead, heading inside for another drink. Alone now, the nearly extinguished candle was my only companion. Prior to proceeding further, I should disclose a fact. Sarah and I had been together for many years. She moved in following our 2nd anniversary. Previously, I'd been married once before, long ago. No children resulted. It ended amicably. When I met Sarah at a charity event in Charleston, I was not seeking anything. I was 54, contented and finding happiness in my unique way. She was 30, witty and sharp-tongued, a woman who could captivate a group of bankers without batting an eye. After 18 months, we got engaged. The wedding was scheduled for late October with 120 guests, a vineyard outside the city providing the perfect backdrop. I want you to comprehend this. I wasn't the old man who had stumbled upon a younger partner. I knew precisely what I possessed and what I represented. I never purchased her extravagance or loyalty. I merely offered her a stable life, and for 3.5 years she seemed content with that. However, when she uttered the word singlehood, there was an unusual stillness in my chest. That's the best way I can explain it. It was as if the floor beneath me had subtly dropped half an inch and no one else felt it. That evening I lay next to her in the dark, trying to convince myself that I might be reading too much into it. Wishful thinking, the kind a man employs when he doesn't want to acknowledge reality yet. Regrettably, I was incorrect. I knew I was wrong. I just wasn't prepared to verbalize it. The following day, I arranged her first-class flight to Miami, scheduled for Saturday at midday. I handed her the keys to the condo on Brickell, an extra card, and a kitchen island hug as farewell. Our agreed-upon rule was straightforward: 30 days of absolute silence, no contact via calls, texts, or check-ins. We were invisible to each other. The concept originated from her, not me. Her eyes filled with tears at the door. She expressed her love for me and stated this separation would strengthen us. On Saturday morning, I escorted her to the airport myself. She kept my knee touched throughout the journey. At the curb, she leaned over and gave me a heartfelt kiss. A kind of long, meaningful kiss shared with someone deeply felt. I watched her pass through the sliding doors, luggage trailing behind, hair neatly tied up, wearing the pale blue dress she favored. I climbed back into the truck, sat for a while, engine off, hands on the wheel. Then I drove home, prepared coffee, and walked around the house. Her wardrobe was half empty. The bathroom counter was spotless. A sticky note adorned the refrigerator. Skipped me slightly, yet not excessively, adorning her name with a tiny heart sketch. 2 hours subsequently, my telephone rang. It was Dale. Consequently, my tranquil morning abruptly ceased. Dale Beaumont, who shares our past from high school, manages a freight business in Jacksonville and visits Miami International Airport twice weekly. He's the sort of friend who can disappear for 6 months but feels like no time has passed when you speak again. "Johnny, I think this might be nothing," he began. "But I just spotted Sarah at the airport. She didn't see me. She got into a black SUV at the curb. A younger man with dark hair was driving. He stepped out, put her luggage in the back, and kissed her on the lips. I remained quiet for quite some time. Dale sensed my silence. "Johnny, are you there? Maybe it was a relative. Perhaps I'm mistaken about the kiss." "It wasn't a relative," I replied. I thanked him, asked him to keep it confidential, and ended the call. I stood in my kitchen with the still warm phone in my hand. A part of me yearned to phone her instantly and shout. Another part wished Dale was incorrect. The part that prevailed was the most experienced one, the one that's managed a business for 3 decades. It advised against calling her. Keep your moves secret. Let her think she's safe. I discarded the coffee down the drain. I grabbed the phone once more and dialed Bill Maddox at home. Bill has been my lawyer for 20 years and also my Sunday fishing companion. He answered on the second ring. I explained what I required. He instructed me to be ready for a call first thing Monday morning. On Sunday, I didn't remain idle for even a minute. I contacted the vineyard before noon, canceled the venue, the band, the florist, the caterer. Most of them were my own vendors, so the conversations were brief. Though painful, they were short. By 2 o'clock, the wedding only existed on paper that hadn't been discarded yet. Then I began packing a suitcase. Monday at 10 in the morning, Bill phoned me back. 9 o'clock marked the activation of the trust established years ago with restrictions on company shares. The engagement contract we signed 6 months prior included a 30-day exit clause, which Bill invoked that morning. He gave me 24 hours, he said. That was all it took for me to be free on paper, Johnny. Whatever I chose to do next, I would do so openly. I thanked him and ended the call. In my own kitchen, I glanced at the clock. Saturday at 1, Dale would call. Monday at 10, the wedding and accounts would vanish, leaving the company protected. Only 24 working hours. Some men might take a year to come to terms with something like this. I didn't have a year. I had a Miami ticket and a woman in my condo who believed she had 30 days. She had less time than that, though she wasn't aware of it yet. I packed my bag, called for transportation, and headed to the airport. At 6 a.m. Tuesday morning, I was already on a flight to Miami. I didn't visit the condo. First misunderstanding arises when people envision the heated confrontation occurring within their bedroom, complete with dramatic door kicking. However, I disliked that scenario and didn't wish to witness her with him in my bed. That image was one I couldn't erase. Instead, I booked a room at a nearby hotel and made a call. The recipient of this call was Marisol, a realtor I had collaborated with for 15 years. I shared that the Brickell condo would be listed for sale by the week's end. Intrigued, she asked when she could view it. I informed her that she wouldn't be able to until Friday, as there was a tenant occupying it until then. She accepted this without question. She recognized my voice. By 11 a.m., preparations for the listing were underway. The condo where Sarah slept, sipped wine, and brought another man's luggage into was already transitioning to a new owner's name. Living in a home that was no longer mine, save for my signature, offered a sense of comfort superior to any door kicked open. Afterward, I made the second decisive move, as I knew Sarah well. For quite some time, I've been observing her. Every Tuesday, she preferred dining at La Esquina, a Cuban eatery by the water. We had dined there more than a dozen times, characterized by large windows and white tablecloths, places she chose because they were ours. A part of me wished she wouldn't be present, but I knew she would be. At noon, I entered La Esquina, asking the hostess to reserve a table near the back wall for easy viewing of the entrance. I ordered a club soda and sat with an upright posture, my hands folded on the table. Exactly at 12:20 p.m., the door opened, and Sarah stepped in first, laughing. Following her was a man taller than me with dark hair, seemingly around his early 30s. He placed his hand on the small of her back, a gesture that seemed familiar, as if he had been doing it for years. Truthfully, my heart didn't shatter in that moment. It had fractured during a phone call with Dale on Saturday afternoon. What I felt then was something less dramatic, more subdued, like watching a stranger. The waitress led them to a window-side table. He courteously pulled out her chair and she sat down. She gazed at him as she used to look at me. I allowed them 10 minutes, enough time for the wine to arrive, enough time for them to settle in. I wished for her comfort. I desired her belief that she was in a city where I didn't exist. Then I stood up and traversed the restaurant. She failed to notice me until I was directly at their table. The smile on her face faded bit by bit. First, her eyes lost their luster, then her lips. The man looked puzzled, unaware of my identity. I slid in an empty chair between them and sat down. "Stay put," I instructed. "Don't cause a scene. I don't intend to." Sarah's hand trembled around her wine glass. The man attempted to speak, but I paid him no heed. I kept my gaze on her. "Did you ask for 30 days?" I asked. "You claimed you needed time to determine if you could survive without me. I want you to understand." It took me a full day to confirm that I could survive without you. She tried to speak but couldn't. "The wedding is off." I informed her. "The vineyard is canceled too. The condo you will sleep in tonight will be listed for sale on Friday. The realtor already has the keys. Your card will no longer function once this meal ends. The company is in a trust from which you'll never gain access. Starting Monday, you have no claim to anything bearing my name." I didn't yell. I never raised my voice. The neighboring couple didn't even notice. That's the part I want you to understand. I didn't shout. I was merely discussing as one would order a cup of coffee. Finally, the man managed to speak up. "Sir, I believe there has not been a miscommunication," I replied, still gazing at her. She is free. She came here to see if she could leave me. She can. I have merely spared her the trouble of feigning compassion." Sarah began to cry quietly. Tears silently tracing down her cheeks, she didn't appear to notice. I left $100 bill on the table for her meal, then stood, zipped up my jacket, and exited onto Brick Hell Avenue under the sun. Without a backward glance through the glass, I departed that very afternoon. By the time I arrived in Charleston, Sarah had called my phone 11 times. I ignored all calls, only sending one message. "Bill Maddox will reach out. Please stop contacting this number." This was on Tuesday. By Thursday, she returned to town. She never came to our house. Bill had already altered the gate code and mailed a letter explaining how to forward her belongings. Instead, she stayed with her sister in Mount Pleasant. The man from Miami didn't pursue her. I learned later through a common acquaintance that he was an old boyfriend from her college days at Gainesville. 3 months prior to our wedding, he initiated contact with her. They've been conversing since then. The Miami trip was his suggestion, sold as her last month of freedom before settling down. He believed she was leaving me for him. However, it turned out that she was merely testing the fit, planning to return to my home, my name, and my life once the month ended. Upon discovering she had been intending to marry me all along, he left. His origin remains unknown to me. I don't care. That very week, Dale phoned from a truck stop near Savannah, inquiring if I had completed the necessary tasks. I confirmed that I had. He approved and then remained silent for approximately a minute, Dale's way of expressing pride. On Friday evening, Sarah unexpectedly appeared at my house. Bill had cautioned me she might do so. I assured him I could handle it. She stood at the gate and buzzed, and I monitored her on camera. Her hair hung loose, free of makeup, her eyes bloodshot. She cradled the engagement ring in her exposed palm, as if presenting an apology. I halted at the end of the driveway, 10 feet from the gate, choosing not to enter. She began talking rapidly, explaining it was a mistake, she'd panicked, and the man in Miami meant nothing. She claimed to have understood halfway through lunch that day that she'd wasted her entire life. As if I could undo it all, she extended the ring further. When she finished speaking, I told her something important for you to recall. "Sarah, your request for 30 days wasn't because of uncertainty about marrying me. It was because you wanted permission to cheat and you sought my approval for it. You received that approval, now you must face the consequences." Her tears returned and the ring remained in her hand. I advised her to sell or discard it, even throwing it into the harbor if she wished. My feelings were indifferent. I instructed Bill to handle the remainder of the situation. Afterward, I walked back toward the house, hearing the bell strike the pavement behind me unheeded. In December, her sister contacted me to express apologies on behalf of the family. She shared that Sarah had disclosed everything. I assured her there was no need for an apology since the family hadn't wronged me. It was Sarah who did. Some 6 months have passed now. The Miami condo was sold within 11 days. The vineyard released me from the deposit as half the suppliers were my acquaintances. I learned later that the dress, her sister returned it. Sarah relocated from Mount Pleasant in February, somewhere further north, and I haven't inquired about her whereabouts. I retained the restaurants, the house, and my tradition of spending Sunday mornings on the back porch with a newspaper and coffee pot. Approximately a month ago, while at the downtown farmers market, a woman around my age stopped me by the tomatoes. She recognized me as John, stating I used to frequent her flower shop. The encounter reminded me I'd bought roses for Sarah there on occasion. Her name was Alina. For approximately 10 minutes, our conversation ranged from trivial topics like weather, fruits, and ongoing highway bridge construction. As she was about to depart, she scribbled her number on a grocery bag and gave it to me. She mentioned there was no rush, just in case I wanted coffee sometime. I tucked the bag into my coat pocket. I haven't dialed yet, but I might not. However, here's what is clear. Sarah requested 30 days to determine if she could manage without me. She has the rest of her life for that answer. As for me, I regained my Sunday mornings, the flickering porch candle, the silence, a paper bag containing her phone number. Just 24 hours were necessary.